So let's talk about confidence. Let's talk about how good you feel and how confident you feel as a female when you're taking care of your business. When you have your financial plan, when you have your budget, you are working it, you are so confident. I want you to sit up, put your shoulders back, put your head up, and really have confidence and feel good about yourself and be like, you know what? I am in control of my money. It isn't in control of me. And that really helps to gain that confidence as you do this, as you pay off debt. It's going to build your confidence so you can continue to pay off more and more and more debt. Then you're going to have the confidence to say no and not go back into consumer debt in the future. So let's talk about hope. Hope is something that I forget the saying, but there's some saying that isn't very nice about what you do with hope. And it's you need to do more than hope and wish. You need to make something concrete. You need to follow through. You need to take action instead of just hoping and wishing. And I agree with that. But if you're taking the steps and you're taking the action, you should feel hopeful about your future. You should feel hopeful about the fact that someday you are going to be able to tell your boss, hey, shove it. I'm gone. I'm retired. I'm out of here. And that is something that you only get that hope for the future if you do the planning and the hard stuff today. And it's tough. And I agree it is. But you have to be hopeful and optimistic about the future so that you can make the short-term sacrifices and do the hard stuff short-term. Pride. So I'm not talking about being prideful. I'm talking about having pride in yourself over what you've accomplished and over the advances you've made in controlling your money. You are in control of your money. You tell your money where to go and how it's going to grow your wealth and how it's going to increase your future bucket. Your future retirement lifestyle is going to increase because you tell your money today where it needs to go. You're making a small sacrifices short term today for the long term gain of someday being able to have pride because you're retired and you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You don't care if Social Security dries up and goes away. You're able to still do what you want to do when you want to do it because you planned, you had control of your money, and you did what you needed to do. And you're proud of yourself for accomplishing that. And you're proud of the lifestyle you're going to have in retirement. I've got a friend of mine, she and her boyfriend, they live down in, I think it's a Margaritaville retirement community down in Florida. It's not the Villages. It is a retirement community that Jimmy Buffett started. They bought a house there. It's an active retirement community. She absolutely loves it. She goes to yoga every morning, every afternoon. There's a crafting session. So she's making stuff, building stuff. What do they call it? Driveway drinks. She has a group they call the Driveway Drinks. So every night after dinner, a bunch of friends come over to her driveway, set up lawn chairs, and they drink, they listen to music. One of the guys in the neighborhood was a former DJ. He brings his stuff, he sets up music. They drink, they laugh, they dance in her driveway every night after dinner. Now that is her dream retirement that she made possible because she and her boyfriend had planned and saved and planned and saved and sacrificed early on so that when they retired, they wouldn't be limited in what they do. She also, her extended family is in Italy. She takes a trip to Italy every single year to see extended family. She doesn't have to worry about the money. Sometimes she flies first class. Sometimes she doesn't if she takes Ewald with her. It just depends on what she wants to do in that moment. And I think it's great that she has manifested the lifestyle in retirement that she always wanted, she always dreamed of. She truly is living her dream. So remember, if you want to limit your stress around money, you have to plan. You have to budget. You have to tell your money where to go. You have to try to detach the emotion and become more logical and put an action plan in place, written down, and then move forward from that moment. And then you can really accomplish your dreams and your goals. And you can live a hopeful, empowered life where you can be truly proud of yourself. Now, I know this might be getting a little bit long, but I think this is important, so I want to tie this in too. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between men and women. I've talked a little bit about it, but I want to kind of dig into this a little bit more because men and women feel very different about money. And a lot of it is tied to, how does social constructs and stereotypes and gender norms, how does that play into money? Well, it does. One of the things is risk tolerance. So men tend to be more risk tolerant. Women tend to avoid taking risk. Women tend to be more safe, more trepidatious, a little bit more conservative with their money, whereas men will be more into risk taking. So you think about the differences of how women and boys are raised. I remember being told I couldn't climb trees or I shouldn't climb trees, where my brother was told, oh, that's great. Can you get to the next limb on that tree? Can you climb higher? And so that is one example of differences in risk tolerance. So, from a very young age, genders are taught to deal with risk in two separate ways. And then women, of course, as they become mothers, they add in the additional risk avoidance of, I've got kids that I have to take care of. I need stability. I need the safety nets. Women feel like they need the safety nets. And so the very conservative, long-term, less risk investing is the way women tend to go. Men tend to be a little bit more riskier. Men will invest in the startup, knowing that, hey, it's kind of all or nothing with the startup. Most of them fail, but if they're successful, Amazon is a great example of that. If you had bought Amazon early, which men did, women by and large did not invest in Amazon early on. The men did, they have seen tremendous return on that investment. So men just statistically will invest in startups. They will have riskier investments. Women, on the other hand, do not. They're very risk averse. They're very conservative and look at more long-term, stable, secure, surefire bets. Women invest in the S&P 500, companies that have long success track records that they know, hey, I might not get as high of a return, but I'll be guaranteed not to lose my money. That's where women tend to put their investments. And it's not a good or a bad, one way is not better than the other, but you need to understand this so that if you are married, you can have the conversation around, okay, how are we going to invest for our future? What are we going to invest in, for our retirement? How are we going to go about this? Just understand that your husband might be looking at the next big startup, where you're probably looking at an EFT or an REIT. And we will, in the future, we will have somebody come on and talk about investing and investment recommendations. So I'm not going to get into that today. Financial goals. Men and women have different financial goals. Women are focused on stability and retirement, whereas men are more focused on short-term gains with higher potential returns. So financial goals, men are wanting to get there fast, large sums of money fast, whereas women are very slow and methodical, and I'll get there eventually. And I want to make sure my money doesn't run out. I want to make sure I don't outlive my money in retirement. So talking about money, again, men and women communicate very differently. Research suggests that women are more likely to discuss financial matters with their spouse before making a decision. So women tend to go to their husbands and say, hey, think about investing in this. What do you think about that? Whereas men tend to they're assertive, they're dominant. They're like, that startup really looks good. I think there's a lot of upside in that. I think this could really be the next Amazon. This could be something. I'm going to throw $1,000 into it, and they're just going to do it. They don't necessarily discuss. And the opposite happens with spending habits. A lot of times, a man, if he wants to buy something, he's looking for something for himself, usually something more high end, higher value. He's looking, hey, can I buy a new boat? Something like that. So they'll go to their spouse and say, hey, I know we've got this plan. I know we've got this budget. I know this money set aside for this. However, I'd like to buy a new bass boat. And here's why. But women, if women are making purchases and spending, they don't tend to ask their husbands, because women tend to spend money on family items. So they tend to feel justified in that spending. Well, I'm spending this for the family. I'm buying a camper because then the family can afford to go on vacation and the kids can have experiences where they're out in Mother Nature. They get to go hiking, they get to go swimming in the pond. When the women look at, okay, this is experiences for the kids and the family, and this will benefit the whole family. So they might not mention it to their husband. They might just do it because it's in their mind, they've justified that this was best for the family. There are two things you need to be able to do. Number one, you need to be able to get out of debt. You've got to control your spending. You've got to have a written budget. You've got to have a plan. But you also have to increase your income. So how do you increase your income? Well, at some point in your career, you're going to have to ask for a raise. Most companies, most bosses will give you like the annual, the offset for the cost of living, offset for inflation, whatever that is, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%. You might get that annually. But if you really want a big raise, if you want a 7% raise, for example, or a 10% raise, you're going to have to ask for that. You're going to have to justify how you're valuable, more valuable to the company. Show them and explain to them how what you've done recently and the things that you have accomplished justify the higher pay increase and justify a higher salary or promotion. Men tend to just ask for it. Women tend to not ask for it. I know in my family, my brother got my great grandmother's, my grandmother's stuff, got several different things from different family members. My mom said he got his inheritance early. He didn't wait for people to die. He got his inheritance early. Well, I didn't get anything. And my brother and I were kind of discussing it. We weren't arguing at all, but I was just like, hey, you've gotten everything. I've gotten nothing. And it's not right. And you should understand it's not right. He has 3 girls. He had a son, unfortunately, that passed away. And I'm like, you should understand and you should have seen the gender disparity in our family and how you and I were treated so different. And you shouldn't want your girls to go through the same thing. You should want your girls to be treated fairly and equitably. And he was like, well, you can't blame me because I got everything. I asked for it. You didn't. If you wanted something, you should ask for it. And I'm like, it wasn't comprehensible. It wasn't even something I thought to have asked for. My great grandmother had a house that she was renting out. It was on a double lot. My brother just asked for it, said, I want that house. I want that double lot. And it was just given to him, And he was supposed to pay rent because she did have a renter in there that she had to kick out for her to give him the house. He agreed to pay rent. He never paid rent. He basically just said, I'm sorry, I don't have the money to pay rent. I'm not going to pay rent. And didn't. And nobody said anything to him about it. And again, for me, that's just incomprehensible. My grandfather was a realtor. He had a bunch of land. My brother just asked my grandmother, hey, can I have this 9 acres here? Hey, can I have this 12 acres here? Hey, can I have the land with the creek on it? She just gave it to him for free. Just gave it to him, signed it away to him. And again, to me, it wouldn't have I could have never comprehended even asking for it. I just assumed incorrectly that my family would have been fair and equitable between me and my brother. And they absolutely have not been ever, even to this day. But that's probably something I need to talk to my therapist about, not to you. Point being, men tend to ask for salary negotiations and ask for more money. Women don't. Women, we need to start asking. We need to start justifying a higher pay scale. We need to stand up for ourselves and be vocal. And I can help you with that. I'll probably have a second segment on that. I do have a blog, leanedon.com. And the whole thing with leanedon.com, I've been blogging there since 2014. My blog is really around how can we lean on the ladder and climb, because men have been climbing the ladder forever. Women, I think we didn't know, at least I didn't when I first started, I didn't know how to climb the ladder. I had to figure it out. And so I want to educate other people and other women on, okay, how do you climb the ladder? How do you ask for a raise? How do you do it in such a way that they can't tell you no? It's a shoe in. All you do your work, you put it together, you present it, and then they say yes. And then you kind of walk out of the room and you're like, why didn't I do this 6 months ago? And I want that for you. I want you to have the confidence and the ability to go in and ask your boss for a high raise, but have the documentation and the evidence to back it up, to prove it, to justify it, so that you don't have any hesitation. You can say, I'm worth more, I'm worth this, and here's why, and prove it to them. And make it where they can't say no. I'm telling you, I've done it, it works. You can check out my blog on leanedon.com, because women need to start asking for more. We have to ask. That's important. You have a voice, use it. Ask.